So I was in the marketing and sales field for a number of years, and it really wasn't my passion. What I wanted to do was always therapy, and that's because I had therapy as a child. And I loved the experience. I enjoyed the experience. That was my favorite part of the day.
Hello, everyone. Today, my podcast guest is Melonie from Pinder Consulting. Melonie, thank you for joining us. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your company.
Hello, everyone. My name is Melonie Pinder. I'm a licensed mental health counselor by trade. I have a private practice, Pinder Counseling LLC, located in Florida, but I also have licenses in other states, including New Hampshire, and I have two other therapists who are contracted with the company as well.
Awesome, awesome. And what made you choose New Hampshire?
During the pandemic, there were a lot of states that were underserved, specifically with
Gotcha.
counselors of color. And New Hampshire was one of those states that had a big demand of uh, clients looking for counselors of color, but not a lot of therapists of color. And so they made it really easy to transition your license to that state. So that was back in 2020, and I've just kept up with it ever since. And it's been great. I've really enjoyed having clients out of that state. So, yeah.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. So, backtracking a little bit, what got you started? What did you do before that, and what made you start Pinder Counseling?
So I was in the marketing and sales field for a number of years. I went to University of Central Florida
Hmm.
and studied marketing, and it really wasn't my passion. Although it was a topic and a subject I was interested in, I would say career wise, I always saw myself as a therapist. And I started at the University of Central Florida with majoring in psychology. Unfortunately, I was talked out of that field
Hmm.
by the guidance counselor, which was just trying to be kind and say, hey, with a bachelor's in psychology, you're not going to be able to do therapy right away. I heard as a freshman, 18 years old, oh, after 4 years of school, I'm going to need perhaps 4 more years to get a job and do what I want to
Hmm.
do. That immediately scared me away from the
Of
field.
course,
So,
of course. Yeah, yeah.
right. So I changed it to marketing, did that for 10 years, but it really wasn't my passion. What I wanted to do was always therapy. And that's because I had therapy as a child.
Yeah, yeah.
And I loved the experience. I enjoyed the experience. And that moment is imprinted in my brain of being in elementary school, being taken out of class and
Hmm.
spending 30 minutes with a therapist. And I'm coloring and I told the therapist whatever I wanted to.
Hmm.
And I just loved that. That was my favorite part of the day. And I think I always knew this is something I wanted to do.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, listen, I'm not gonna take it too hard, even though I'm a marketer. This is my passion, but I'll just pretend like you didn't say this. No, but all good. That's what makes the world a better place. People have different
Right.
interests, and that's that. So okay, listen. Thank you for sharing that background. Now let's
Hmm.
dive a little bit deeper into the business side of your practice, because this is
Okay.
what I want to understand. I want to also shed some light for the our listeners here.
Okay.
So how many patients would you say that like it's typical for somebody with a practice your size to see or to have on in a contract or however you guys call it?
Absolutely. So, for in a private practice setting, having a full caseload is no more than 20 clients, in my opinion.
Okay. Okay.
So, having a full caseload would include, I would say, if you go beyond more than 20 clients a week,
Hmm.
that's pushing it.
Yeah.
So, for
Okay.
me personally, I tend to see anywhere between 10 to 15 clients in the week because I have other things that I do, other businesses. So about 15 clients is my sweet spot. For my other contractors, same thing.
Okay.
They may have their own businesses that they do on the side, and this is just something that they do in their free time. But no more than 20 clients in a week in
Gotcha.
private practice is ideal. That's
Okay.
not always the case
Hmm.
at certain agencies. They want you to
Of
see
course.
way more clients than 20, which I think
Okay.
is what leads a lot of therapists into burnout because they're
Yeah, of course.
overworking themselves.
Of course. No, sounds about right. I mean, listen, for me, just my own problems are enough,
Hmm.
my own struggles are enough. So having to like, taking 20 or more to your point, yeah, I can understand how this could have a detrimental impact. So what would you say that um, has been, so first of all, do you guys accept insurance, or is it like, oh, yes, you do. Okay.
We do. We
Um,
accept some insurances, not all
okay.
insurances, but some
Okay.
insurances.
Okay.
Yes.
And do you feel like this is pretty common yes, for counselors? Yeah.
I do, especially because the landscape has changed. When I first
Mm-hmm.
got into private practice, it would as a business owner, I would have to get credentialed, meaning be approved by the insurance company to take
Mm-hmm.
different insurances. But I would have to go to every single insurance company I wanted to be credentialed with. So
Mm,
if it was Aetna, I would have to do an application with Aetna and negotiate a rate. Then I would go to Cigna. Then I would go to United Healthcare. Time consuming.
gotcha.
And then they would each have their different systems that you would have to submit a claim.
Mm-hmm.
Now with technology,
Mm-hmm.
there are companies now that will credential you with multiple insurance companies at a time, and they make it
Nice.
so easy to submit a claim. So I would say now it is very common for a lot of private practitioners to accept insurance, where before they
That's
may
good.
have shied away from it just because of the
The amount of work,
time.
the paperwork, yes. Okay.
Absolutely, it was so much
Mm,
paperwork, but now it's a lot more common.
okay. Makes sense. So I guess like, speaking of technology,
Hmm.
um, before we dive into like, the use of AI in your
Hmm.
practice, also in the industry, I want to understand um what so what are the biggest your biggest struggles? Obviously, you mentioned that, for example, getting registered with all these pairs used to be one of them. That's taken
Hmm.
care of. So what's happening currently? What is one challenge that you feel like is is something that you deal with on a regular basis for your practice when it comes to the business side of things?
So from a business side of thing, on the business side of things, I would say it would be balancing. I'm not only the owner of the company, but I also see clients. So it is balancing all the things. While I do have an assistant that helps onboard clients, I would say in between sessions, clients may reach out. They may want to touch base. They may want to, there's a change in scheduling. So, from a business standpoint, taking a step back and not only managing my clients, managing the business, managing payroll, and as well as the other
Yeah.
therapists, there are a lot of tasks, competing
But
tasks that I often experience.
but you mentioned you had an assistant, so that's not something
I
that the
do.
assistant can take on.
So the assistant does take quite a bit of this on. She does.
Hmm.
And I often do delegate some things for her to take on, which has been tremendously helpful. I don't know how I did it
Mm,
without an assistant. It is still consistent. I get consistent calls that I have to return because it rings to my business line. There are some
gotcha.
questions regarding insurance, regarding diagnoses that my assistant can't answer. That was something
Hmm.
that I would have to answer. So I
Okay.
would say, as a business owner, it really is about balance. And sometimes I find myself being pulled in multiple directions. But I have found some respite with things like AI for therapy notes and just different
Hmm.
tasks that have been tremendously helpful for me. So that's limited my after hours work quite a bit by
Hmm.
being able
Awesome.
to utilize those systems.
Okay, tell me more about this. So, yes, note taking is it's amazing. I think AI has
Mhm.
come a long way.
Yes.
Even this meeting, I'll get the transcript, and it will be the perfect summary of what we've discussed, any action item. So, yes, I hear you on that. And I mean,
So
listen,
great.
that's why I'm a big fan of AI. I think this the sky is the limit these days. There are new tools coming out every single day, and this is what kind of like drove me to get this podcast started, wanting to understand how AI is impacting different industries. So now you use AI, for example, for note taking. You mentioned,
Hmm.
and your assistant is not a virtual assistant; it's like somebody that's actually an actual person, correct?
She's virtual, meaning she lives in another state,
Gotcha,
but
gotcha.
yeah,
Yep,
she's an
but yes,
actual human.
human. Yes, okay, sounds good. And this is where like things are shifting. Because don't get me wrong, I think that it's always good to have that human touch, but even helping your assistant keep up with some of these things,
Yeah.
this is where, like, AI could come in. So do you feel like this is something that you feel like you're ahead of the curve when it comes to AI in your industry, or what do you hear other counselors do?
So I would love to believe that I'm ahead of the curve. I am not. I was a late adopter to AI.
Mm-hmm.
My husband, who's in a completely different industry, had been telling me about AI and Chat GPT
Mm-hmm.
forever. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
no, nope, not interested, not interested. So I am a late arrival. I'm late to
Adapter.
the game. I'm
Okay.
late to the game
Okay.
with AI.
Okay.
But it's been tremendously helpful now that I am utilizing it, because
Mm-hmm.
specifically with therapeutic notes, after every therapy session, we have to submit a therapy note in our system or keep a therapy note.
Mm-hmm.
And once we've have our therapy note completed, then we can go to the insurance company and submit the claim, which is basically saying, yes, we saw this client. This is their
Mm-hmm.
diagnosis, all the things. We'll submit the claim to them and then they will pay us. When you see 20 clients in a week, that's 20 notes that one would have to complete. And I
Mm-hmm.
am not, um, I don't take brief notes, I should say.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm very detailed in my notes,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like it's important for me to be aware of what's going on. And just from writing for me helps with memory
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
retention.
Yeah.
So I'm very detailed. Well,
Yeah.
what I found is with ChatGPT, there are prompts that you can put in, not
Mm-hmm.
providing any HIPAA compliant information, but
Mm-hmm.
in, no defining details, but it will literally create the note for me with
Mm-hmm.
just a few shorthanded bullet points on what we've discussed.
Do
It's been
you
amazing.
do you have these calls recorded or no?
So sometimes, so there are, I use two different systems,
Mm-hmm.
mainly for insurance purposes, to
Mm-hmm.
bill insurance. So one system they've updated their video component to where it does provide a recording of the session, and it will create the most beautiful note ever that
Mm-hmm.
includes the intervention I used, if this is still a medical necessity for me to continue seeing this client. It'll even
Mm-hmm.
give me their affect, right,
That's
during the
awesome.
session, which is amazing. Every client that uses that video component, they do sign off that they are okay with it,
Yeah.
and they
Mm-hmm.
so it is something that they sign off, and it is a HIPAA compliant platform. But for on another platform, I also use a HIPAA compliant Zoom. It is not recorded, but what I do is I open up a Chat GPT note. I had a lovely friend, Alyssa Noel, who created the note, a Chat GPT prompt, and she said just put
Nice.
in the bullet points and hit enter, and it will create the note for you.
That's
So
awesome.
once half of my clients it is recorded, the other half it is not recorded.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. And so far, like, does it also help you with the claims process, submit claims? So you take these notes and you submit them directly, or you have to often edit and do other things?
So the note is for my personal electronic health record system. The insurance
Mm-hmm.
company never really gets the note. We are
Gotcha.
just required to keep the note after every session, in the off
Gotcha.
chance that they say, hey, what's going on with this client? They've not
Mm-hmm.
asked me, knock on wood, but the notes are for our records that we are
Mm-hmm.
bound to keep. But the claim is, we submit the claim once our, well, we're supposed to submit the claim only after we've completed our therapy note.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mhm.
And what would you say that, like, so now, uh, to you want to keep growing your practice, is that correct?
I would like to, yes.
Okay. So what do you feel like is the next step for you? Like, what do you feel like you need? Because obviously, more growing the practice means more patient. It means more potentially help in terms of, like,
Mhm.
other contractors, more resources. Maybe, like, another assistant, all of that.
Mhm.
So, but you tell me, what does that look like for you?
So this is my big dream. I would like to expand my group practice by adding additional contractors
Mm-hmm.
and also having a full-time assistant,
Mm-hmm.
including someone who would answer the phones. Right now, my assistant is part-time, but someone who
Mm-hmm.
would answer the phones, who would respond to emails. So right now, if I get a live call, if I'm in session, obviously I can't answer the phone
Yeah,
call.
yeah.
So it'll go to a voicemail and then I'll have to return calls. I would have someone to do all of that as well as an office manager to onboard any new contractor that I have, any potentially new therapist that comes on board.
Hmm.
And I would also like to open up a physical office location again.
Hmm.
I am a 100% virtual.
Okay.
I had an office location before, but in at the end of 2021, I closed it because most of my
Hmm.
clients were okay
Yeah.
remaining virtual following the pandemic. So I would love to have another office location and
Okay.
have several offices for my contractors to occasionally come in and hold in-person sessions. So that would be my dream. That would be my dream.
Awesome. I mean, listen, I think I've heard enough here from you to know that you will achieve it.
Oh, thank you.
Because listen, I think this is the main thing. Oftentimes, I'll ask business owners in healthcare, but also in different fields, like like what do you want? How do you plan on growing your business?
Mhm.
And the answer is never like uh, I mean, the answer is oftentimes, I shouldn't say never, but oftentimes not as clear as the one you provided because
Oh,
they don't have that vision. So, but right now you have a clear vision of what you want to do, how you want to do it. And I think it's just a matter of time for you. So, congratulations.
thank you.
I'm new to this, to the consulting world in terms of like, hearing about like, how your practice and others work. But I'm loving what I'm hearing. I have a big appreciation for the challenges and what it takes to grow a business. And listen,
Thank
Melanie, I can't thank you enough for coming on here and sharing your perspective. I think maybe in 2 years I'll reach back out to you and you will have accomplished exactly what you just mentioned.
Oh man, I listen, I love your faith in me.
You got to
So
believe.
hopefully,
We got to start somewhere.
indeed,
No,
indeed. I appreciate you for having me. And again, I love the opportunity at any point to talk about mental health, being a business owner, all the things. So thanks for thinking of me.
and if any of our listeners hear this podcast and they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
The best way is through our website,
Okay.
www.pindercounseling.com. You can view the different therapists that we have available, review our services, the insurances we accept, and all the things to get started on the
Awesome.
therapy journey.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Melanie. It was a true
Of
pleasure.
course.
And I look forward to having you again in the future.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.